It's day 804. It's also July 18th, 2021. Well, we almost made it. You ever wake up in the morning and ask yourself, what am I doing? And more importantly, why? Yeah, me too. Hi, my name's Craig, and this is my story. A story about life. Life out there. For visuals while listening, to watch the video versions of this podcast, or even just to say hey, check us out on our website at lifeoutthere.me. Back to that beautiful Saturday morning. Cruising up the freeway, windows cracked, enjoying the scenery along I-15 North with Salt Lake City in our sights. It was all so familiar. Vacilando moving us forward, just like he had all over the country. And then, he didn't. Everything changed. And there are more than a few valuable lessons to be learned here. And you know, funny thing is, I'd already been taught most of it. Just stop paying attention, I guess. First lesson, relearned. When you're driving a nearly 40-year-old piece of equipment, pay attention. Listen. Watch. Those computers on wheels that we use to get around in these days, well, they've spoiled us. I think in more ways than we might know. They're full of computers, monitoring everything, sounding alarms and flashing lights at any sign of trouble. From tire pressure monitoring, to warn of a potential flat tire, well before it happens, to oil and transmission temperatures, so we can be alerted well before the motor has a chance to really overheat. And Vacilando, in as good a condition as he is, has none of that. He needs me to take care of and watch out for him, as well as he had taken care of us. So I guess I sort of failed him. Had I been paying attention? Listened? Maybe I would have heard the change in the sound of his engine as his fan belt failed him. It took only seconds, I imagine, for his engine block to feel the lack of coolant flowing throughout his system. At 65 miles an hour and around 2,500 RPM, I'd remain oblivious to his failure until the moment his exhaust first gasped. I heard the knock, and just like that, as I glanced down at a temperature gauge pegged all the way to the right, I reached down to shut off the engine and look for a spot to coast off to the side of the freeway, but that was all just a little too late. The engine cut out as I turned the key off. Instantly, I began to smell and see the steam escaping from the radiator. And in seconds, we were yet just one more example of that classic scene. A car, in our case an RV, alongside the road, with steam billowing from the engine compartment. Everything smelled so hot. It was pretty obvious we'd be going nowhere under our own power, so first call, insurance company roadside assistance. We'd need a tow truck. And a place to go. We were only a couple of miles out of Saratoga Springs, so tow truck was dispatched from there. I tasked the insurance company with finding a shop that could handle an RV repair. But even as the tow truck arrived and loaded Vacilando onto a trailer, they had still found nothing. It didn't help that it was a Saturday morning, I suppose. Likely most of them closed. And we were supposed to be gone. Saratoga Springs in the rear view, For good, for now anyways. But at the recommendation of the tow truck driver, we headed back. He told me of a repair shop on the same parking lot as an auto parts store. It was a big, huge lot, he said, surrounded by open fields. They'd all been cleared for development. He said he'd have plenty of room to get his rig in there, unload us, help us get situated, and then get himself back out safely. And 30 minutes or so later, there we were, on the parking lot of a Quest Auto Parts store. The repair shop was closed till Monday, so I headed into the parts store for a chat with the folks in there. The guys were super helpful. They looked up all the potential belts involved. So, armed with a parts list, I headed out for a look myself. Not exactly a master mechanic here, fact is, far from it. Another one of those examples in life when I wish I'd just paid closer attention, when my grandfather tried to teach me stuff. He was indeed a master mechanic. He fixed everything himself. Never believed in paying someone else for something you can do yourself. He'd say it all the time. Oh, and I also remembered his voice repeating over and over, as he'd shut the radio off in the car and state to whoever had turned it on, "Listen to the car you're driving," he'd say, as he pointed to the engine. "Not to the noise coming out of that box," pointing at the radio. And I somehow knew that if he were here right now, we'd be hard at work, everything probably replaced in no time. But he isn't here. Plenty of options, I suppose. Mobile mechanic, maybe? Or just wait till Monday and see what the guys in that repair shop over there have to say. But I thought, no harm in having a go at it myself in the meantime. So instead, it would be me, the guys in the auto parts store, and a ton of time on YouTube. And good thing I had that list of belts from the parts guys. Turns out I'd need almost all of them. 4, I think. It looks like the belt on the water pump had failed, and it managed to take a few others out with it. I had a big old mess of belts under there. My biggest challenge would be figuring out which one went where, and with a lot of help from the parts store guys. It'd be a couple of days of running in and out of the auto parts store for tools I needed and didn't have, back to YouTube, and back under the doghouse for some crawling around, squeezing my hand in, under, over, and around things. Frequent trips outside to slide in under Vacilando to see if I could reach things better from there. And breaks. Lots of breaks. Days were still nearing triple digits around here by late afternoon. So lots of breaks with the generator and the AC on. I made sure to start at the crack of dawn on the second day. Try to beat the heat. And I did. By early afternoon on Sunday, I'd replaced all the belts. I'd also found a hose at the bottom of the radiator that had split. I replaced that, and then attempted to start old Vacilando. And to great relief, he started. So, belts replaced, coolant flushed, system refilled, temperature stable. The engine sounded right again. I remember standing there afterward, listening to the hum of Vacilando's 454 and thinking, I think we might have dodged a bullet here. And that feeling is important, because it's the last time I felt it for a while. This thing called life comes with a lot of rules. Maybe it's time to break a few. Because you can. No, seriously. You can.
Free audio post-production by alphonic.com.